Adrian Kane sat in the back of his black SUV, watching Miami's evening traffic crawl past the tinted windows. Beside him, Isabella flipped through wedding magazines, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against glossy pages. "I think we should do the ceremony at sunset," Isabella said, not looking up. "The photos will be stunning." "My father agrees." Adrian nodded without really listening. Isabella wasn't someone he loved. She was someone his world required. Her father controlled shipping routes from Asia. Their marriage would unite two powerful operations into something untouchable. Clean. Strategic. Profitable. The light ahead turned red. His driver, Carlos, stopped the vehicle smoothly. Outside, people crossed the street. Regular people heading home from work, carrying bags, living ordinary lives that Adrian had forgotten existed. Isabella kept talking about flowers or music or something. Adrian stared out the window, his mind already on tomorrow's meeting with suppliers from Colombia. Then he saw her. A woman crossing the street, moving carefully through the crowd. She wore jeans and a faded jacket, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She pushed a double stroller, the kind that held two babies side by side. Adrian's entire body went rigid. Even from this distance, even with 3 years between them, he knew that face. The curve of her jaw. The way she walked with her shoulders back despite obvious exhaustion. The careful way she maneuvered that stroller around a pothole. Zoe Martinez. The woman he'd loved. The woman he'd destroyed. The stroller stopped in the middle of the crosswalk. One of the babies started crying, the sound carrying faintly through the closed windows. Zoe bent down, said something soft Adrian couldn't hear, and gently rocked the stroller. The crying stopped. She straightened, looked both ways like she was still nervous about being in public, and continued across. Adrian's hand gripped the door handle so hard his knuckles turned white. 3 years. The babies looked maybe 4 or 5 months old. The timeline fit perfectly. Too perfectly. His throat felt like someone was choking him. Had Zoe been pregnant when he left? Had she known and stayed silent? Or had she discovered it after he'd already vanished, after he'd blocked her number and told his people never to let her near him again? If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe to this channel for more like this. Adrian? Isabella's voice cut through the ringing in his ears. The light's green. Why aren't we moving? He couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't look away from the spot where Zoe had disappeared into the crowd. Carlos glanced in the rearview mirror, waiting for instructions. Drive, Adrian finally managed, his voice hoarse. But as the SUV pulled forward, Adrian twisted in his seat, trying to catch one more glimpse. She was gone. Swallowed by the evening crowd with his children. His children. The words repeated in his mind like a death sentence. He'd left Zoe 3 years ago because his enemies had threatened to kill anyone he cared about. He'd watched those same enemies torture and murder the girlfriend of one of his lieutenants, just to send a message. So Adrian had made the hardest choice of his life. He'd walked into Zoe's apartment, told her it was over, told her she didn't belong in his world, and left without explaining why. He'd convinced himself it was mercy. That forgetting her was the price of keeping her alive. But now, seeing her exhausted and struggling with 2 babies, Adrian understood with crushing clarity that he hadn't saved her. He'd just made her fight alone. You look terrible, Isabella said, finally looking up from her magazine. Are you sick? I'm fine. You don't look fine. You look like you saw something upsetting. Adrian forced his expression back to stone. Just tired. Long day. Isabella studied him for a moment, then shrugged and returned to her magazines. She didn't care. Their engagement was business, nothing more. They'd both agreed to that. But Adrian's mind was spinning. If those were his children, then Zoe had been pregnant and delivered alone. Had raised 2 babies by herself while he'd been sitting in penthouses, making deals, living in luxury. The guilt felt like acid burning through his chest. "Take me home," he told Carlos. "I need to make some calls." Isabella glanced at him. "I thought we were having dinner with my parents tonight." "Cancel it." Something came up. Her eyes narrowed. "Something more important than meeting with my father?" "Yes." For a moment, Isabella looked like she might argue. Then she pulled out her phone and texted someone, her jaw tight with irritation. The rest of the drive passed in silence. Adrian stared out the window, seeing nothing, his mind replaying that moment at the crosswalk over and over. The way Zoe had bent down to comfort the crying baby. The exhaustion in her shoulders. The cheap stroller that probably came from a thrift store. When they reached Isabella's family estate, she got out without saying goodbye, slamming the door hard enough to make a point. Adrian didn't care. He was already pulling out his phone. "Carlos, take me to the office. Now." Adrian's office sat on the top floor of a high-rise overlooking Biscayne Bay. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the city sprawling below, all those lights representing lives he'd never live, choices he'd never make. He stood at the window now, phone pressed to his ear, waiting. "Boss?" The voice on the other end belonged to Raymond, his head of security. 45 years old, former military, loyal for 15 years. "I need you to find someone," Adrian said. "Zoe Martinez. Get me everything. Where she lives, where she works, financial situation, medical records. And there are 2 children. I need to know everything about them too." Silence stretched on the other end. "Too long. Raymond." "Boss, there's something I need to tell you. In person." Adrian's jaw clenched. "Tell me now." "Not over the phone. I'll be there in 30 minutes. The line went dead. Adrian threw the phone onto his desk and turned back to the window. 30 minutes felt like 30 years. When Raymond finally arrived, he carried a thick envelope. His face looked like he was walking into an execution. "Talk," Adrian ordered. Raymond set the envelope on the desk but didn't open it. "After you ended things with Zoe 3 years ago, you told me to make sure she stayed away. You said if she kept trying to contact you, your enemies would notice. So I gave orders." "What orders?" "I told our people to block her. Phone calls, messages, if she showed up anywhere you might be, they were supposed to turn her away. No exceptions." Adrian's hands curled into fists. "Go on." "A few months after you left her, she started trying to reach you. She came to the club 7 times. Security turned her away every time. She called your phone. I had the number blocked. She sent letters to your office. I intercepted them. Did you read the letters?" Raymond nodded slowly. "She was pregnant, boss. She was trying to tell you she was carrying your children." The room tilted. Adrian grabbed the edge of the desk to steady himself. His vision went dark around the edges, and for a moment, he thought he might pass out. "She tried to tell me," he whispered. "She tried for 4 months. Then she stopped. I think she gave up." Adrian's hands shook as he reached for the envelope. Inside were photographs, documents, medical records. He spread them across the desk with trembling fingers. Zoe's current address was a studio apartment in Liberty City, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Miami. The building had bars on the windows and gang tags spray-painted across the walls. Her job was night shift waitress at a diner off Route 1. $16,000 a year. Adrian felt bile rise in his throat. The next document was a hospital bill. $74,000. Emergency cesarean section at 30 weeks. Premature delivery. 30 weeks, Adrian said aloud, his voice hollow. That's early. The boy had complications, Raymond said quietly. Respiratory problems. He spent 6 weeks in the neonatal unit. The doctors weren't sure he'd make it. Adrian's vision blurred. He blinked hard, forcing himself to keep reading. The babies' names were listed on the birth certificates. Ethan Adrian Martinez. Sophia Grace Martinez. She'd given their son his name. After he'd abandoned her. After his people had blocked her, turned her away, thrown her out like garbage. After she'd been left to face everything alone. She'd still named their son after him. Why didn't you tell me she was pregnant? Adrian's voice was barely a whisper. I thought I was protecting you. Your enemies were watching. If they knew you cared about her, if they knew about the babies, they'd use them to destroy you. So you let her suffer alone. I thought it was the right call. Adrian moved so fast Raymond didn't have time to react. He grabbed Raymond by the throat and slammed him against the wall, lifting him off the ground. You stole 3 years, Adrian snarled. 3 years of my children's lives. You stole their first breath, their first smile, their first everything. Raymond didn't fight back. He just looked at Adrian with something like regret. I know, boss. I'm sorry. Adrian held him there for another moment, then let go. Raymond collapsed to the floor, coughing. Get out of my sight, Adrian said, his voice cold as death. If I see you in the next 24 hours, I'll kill you. Raymond left without another word. Alone in his office, Adrian sank into his chair and picked up the photographs. The first one showed Zoe leaving the diner where she worked, her uniform stained, her face exhausted. The second showed her climbing the stairs to her apartment building, carrying both babies because there was no elevator. The third photograph made Adrian's chest crack open. Zoe sat on a park bench, the twins sleeping in their stroller beside her. Her head was tilted back, eyes closed, face turned toward the sun like she was trying to absorb every second of warmth. She looked so tired. So alone. Adrian pressed his palm against the photograph, wishing he could reach through time and space to that moment. Wishing he could tell her she wasn't alone anymore. But he'd made her alone. This was his fault. He picked up his phone and called his assistant. I need protection detail on Zoe Martinez starting immediately. 24-hour surveillance. She doesn't know they're there, but nothing happens to her or those children. Understood? Yes, sir. And I need to know her schedule. When she works, when she's home, everything. Adrian hung up and stared at the photographs until the sun rose over Miami, painting the sky orange and gold. He didn't sleep. He just sat there, looking at the face of the woman he'd loved and the children he'd never held, making plans. He was going to fix this. Whatever it took. However long it took. He was going to make this right. 3 days later, Adrian's phone rang at 2 in the morning. Unknown number. He answered on the first ring. Yes. Kane. The voice sent ice through Adrian's veins. It's been a while. Thomas Reeves. The man who controlled Miami's north side. The man whose threats had made Adrian walk away from Zoe 3 years ago. What do you want? I know your secret, Reeves said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. A woman and 2 babies in Liberty City. Funny how you tried so hard to hide them, but my people found them anyway. Adrian's hand tightened around the phone. You stay away from them. Or what? You'll start a war? Reeves laughed. I've been waiting for this, Kane. Waiting for you to care about something so I could take it away. Touch them and I'll burn everything you've built. Big words. But here's the thing. I'm going to take them from you the same way you took from me. Slowly. Painfully. And you're going to watch. The line went dead. Adrian was already moving. He grabbed his jacket, his gun, his keys. He called his men as he ran for the elevator. Get to Liberty City now. Zoe's apartment. Full protection detail. If anyone who isn't ours gets within a block of that building, shoot them. He burst out of the building and into his car, tires screaming as he tore out of the parking garage. Liberty City was 20 minutes away. Adrian made it in 12, running every red light, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might explode. His men were already there when he arrived, vehicles blocking both ends of the street. Adrian took the stairs 3 at a time, gun drawn, reaching Zoe's door on the 5th floor. He knocked. Hard. Urgent. Footsteps inside. Slow, cautious. Who is it? Zoe's voice. Scared. It's Adrian. Open the door. Silence. Zoe, please. You're in danger. Open the door. More silence. Then the sound of locks turning. 1, 2, 3. The door opened a crack, chain still engaged. Zoe stared at him through the gap, her face a mixture of shock and fury. You, she whispered. You have a lot of nerve showing up here. I know. But you need to listen. There are people coming for you and the babies. Dangerous people. I need to get you somewhere safe. I don't need anything from you. Zoe. You left me, she hissed, her voice shaking. 3 years ago, you walked out without explaining why. You blocked my calls. Your people threw me out when I tried to find you. I was pregnant, Adrian. I was carrying your children, and you made me face it alone. Every word was a knife. Adrian took them all, knowing he deserved worse. I know. I'm sorry. But right now, that doesn't matter. What matters is keeping you and Ethan and Sophia alive. Zoe went very still. How do you know their names? I've known for 3 days. I saw you at the crosswalk. I saw the babies. Her face hardened. So you've been watching me. Stalking me. Protecting you. I don't want your protection. I don't want anything from you. From inside the apartment, a baby started crying. Then another. Zoe glanced back, torn between slamming the door in Adrian's face and checking on her children. Adrian made the choice for her. He shouldered through the door, breaking the chain. What are you doing? Zoe grabbed his arm, trying to pull him back. But Adrian was already moving through the tiny studio apartment. It was clean but sparse. One room serving as bedroom, living room, and nursery. A small kitchen in the corner. Cracks in the walls. Windows that didn't lock properly. The twins were in a single crib, too small for 2 babies but probably all Zoe could afford. They were crying, tiny faces red with distress. Adrian walked to the crib and looked down at his children for the first time. Ethan had his eyes. Dark and serious, even at 5 months old. Sophia had Zoe's smile, even through her tears. Something in Adrian's chest shattered and rebuilt itself in the same moment. These were his children. His blood. His responsibility. And he hadn't been there for a single day of their lives. You need to leave, Zoe said behind him, her voice cracking. You need to get out of my home. Adrian turned to face her. Pack whatever you need for the babies. We're leaving. Now. I'm not going anywhere with you. Zoe, listen to me. Thomas Reeves knows about you. He knows about Ethan and Sophia. He's going to hurt you to get to me. This apartment isn't safe. This building isn't safe. You need to let me protect you. Why should I believe anything you say? Because I'm the reason you're in danger. Adrian's voice broke. Because I should have protected you 3 years ago instead of walking away. Because I made the wrong choice and now you're paying for it. So please. Let me fix this. Let me keep you safe. Zoe stared at him, tears streaming down her face. The babies kept crying. Finally, she whispered, if anything happens to my children because of you, I will never forgive you. I know. She turned and started throwing things into a bag. Diapers, formula, tiny clothes. Her hands shook so badly she kept dropping things. Adrian wanted to help but didn't dare move. He just stood there, watching the woman he'd destroyed try to save the children he'd abandoned. 10 minutes later, they were in Adrian's SUV, racing through Miami's dark streets. Zoe sat in the back with the babies, refusing to look at him. Adrian watched her in the rearview mirror, and for the first time in 3 years, he felt something other than cold calculation. He felt terror. Adrian's safe house sat on Key Biscayne, a fortress disguised as a beach home. Guards patrolled the perimeter. Security cameras covered every angle. No one got within 100 yards without being seen. Inside, Zoe stood in the living room holding Ethan and Sophia, looking around like she'd stepped into another world. There are 3 bedrooms upstairs, Adrian said. You and the babies can take the master. It has an attached bathroom and... Why did you leave me? The question hit Adrian like a bullet. He turned to face her. Zoe's eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady now. Strong. Tell me the truth, she continued. After 3 years of silence, after everything, you owe me that much. Adrian nodded slowly. Thomas Reeves. He controls the north side of Miami. 3 years ago, he wanted my territory. When I refused to give it up, he went after someone I cared about to send a message. Who? My lieutenant's girlfriend. Her name was Maria. Reeves had her killed. Made sure we found the body so we'd understand what would happen to anyone we loved. Zoe's face went pale. The day I left you, Adrian continued, his voice hollow, Reeves called me. He told me he knew about you. He described what you were wearing that morning, what time you left for work, what coffee shop you stopped at. He knew everything. Then he told me exactly what he'd do to you if I didn't end things. So you left to protect me. I thought if I cut you out of my life completely, if I made it clear you meant nothing to me, Reeves would lose interest. I thought I was saving you. Zoe stared at him for a long moment. Then she started laughing. It was a broken, bitter sound. You thought abandoning me was saving me? You thought blocking my calls and throwing me out was protection? I was wrong. You were a coward. Her voice turned to ice. You made a choice for me without asking what I wanted. You decided I couldn't handle your world, couldn't handle danger, couldn't handle the truth. You treated me like I was weak. You're not weak. You're the strongest person I've ever known. Then why didn't you trust me with the truth? Why didn't you let me choose? Adrian had no answer. Because she was right. He'd been a coward. He'd chosen control over honesty, fear over love. When I found out I was pregnant, Zoe continued, her voice shaking now, I tried to tell you. I came to your club 7 times. Your security threw me out like I was nothing. I called your phone over and over. You blocked my number. I wrote you letters. No one ever answered. I didn't know about the letters. I didn't know you were trying to reach me. Would it have mattered? Would you have come back? The question hung in the air between them. Finally, Adrian said, I don't know. I want to say yes. But honestly, I don't know if I would have had the courage. At least it was the truth. Zoe looked down at Ethan and Sophia, sleeping peacefully in her arms now. I had them at 30 weeks. Premature. Ethan couldn't breathe on his own. The doctors said he might not survive. Adrian felt like someone had reached into his chest and squeezed his heart. I sat next to his incubator for 42 days, Zoe whispered. 42 days watching my son fight for every breath, praying he'd make it through the night. And I was alone, Adrian. Completely alone. I'm sorry. The words felt pathetic. Meaningless. Sorry doesn't give me back those nights I cried myself to sleep. Sorry doesn't pay the $74,000 in hospital bills I'm drowning in. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you chose to abandon me. I know. But I'm here now. And I'm not leaving again. Zoe looked at him, her eyes hard. You don't get to just waltz back into our lives because you feel guilty. I'm not here because of guilt. I'm here because you and Ethan and Sophia are in danger because of me. I'm here because I need to fix what I broke. You can't fix this. Maybe not. But I can try. They stood there in silence. The only sound was the ocean outside, waves crashing against the beach. Finally, Zoe said, I'm only staying until the danger passes. After that, we're gone. You don't get to be their father just because your DNA matches. You lost that right when you walked away. The words cut deep, but Adrian nodded. Fair enough. Zoe turned and carried the babies upstairs, leaving Adrian alone in the living room. He sank onto the couch and buried his face in his hands. This was going to be harder than he'd imagined. The first week was a disaster. Adrian tried everything. He bought expensive toys for Ethan and Sophia. He hired the best nanny in Miami. He had organic baby food delivered daily. Zoe rejected all of it. They don't need expensive toys, she said coldly. They need stability. Something you know nothing about. She wouldn't let him hold the babies. Wouldn't let him feed them or change their diapers. She treated him like a stranger invading her space. Which, Adrian realized, was exactly what he was. On the third night, Ethan woke up crying at 2 a.m. Adrian heard it from his room down the hall and went to help. He found Zoe in the nursery, pacing back and forth with Ethan against her shoulder, humming softly. She looked exhausted. Like she might collapse. Let me take him, Adrian said from the doorway. No. Zoe, you're exhausted. Let me help. I said no. Ethan kept crying. Zoe kept pacing. Her legs were shaking. Please, Adrian said. Just for 10 minutes. Let yourself rest. Zoe stopped and looked at him. For a moment, he thought she might refuse again. Then her shoulders sagged. If you drop him, I'll kill you. Adrian crossed the room and carefully took Ethan from her arms. The baby felt impossibly small, impossibly fragile. He weighed maybe 12 pounds. Hey, buddy, Adrian whispered. It's okay. Daddy's got you. The word felt foreign on his tongue. Daddy. He'd never said it before. Ethan looked up at him with wide, dark eyes. Evaluating. Judging. Then, slowly, the crying stopped. Adrian walked in circles around the nursery, rocking Ethan gently, humming the same tune Zoe had been humming. He didn't know where he'd learned it. Maybe he'd heard Zoe sing it once, years ago. Ethan's eyes started to close. His tiny fist curled against Adrian's chest. When Adrian looked up, Zoe was watching him from the doorway. Her expression was unreadable. He likes you, she said quietly. He's just tired. No. He trusts you. She paused. I don't know why. Adrian laid Ethan carefully back in the crib. The baby was already asleep, his breathing soft and even. Thank you, Zoe whispered. It was the first kind thing she'd said to him in a week. On the 8th day, Isabella showed up at the safe house. Adrian heard the commotion downstairs. Raised voices. His security team trying to stop someone from entering. Then Isabella's sharp tone cut through everything. I don't care what your orders are. I'm his fiancé. Let me in. Adrian cursed and ran downstairs. Isabella stood in the foyer, dressed in a designer suit, her arms crossed, glaring at the security guards blocking her path. Isabella. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? She turned her fury on him. You disappear for a week. You cancel our engagement party. You don't answer my calls. So I tracked your phone and came to find out what's so important. Her eyes swept the room and landed on Zoe, standing at the top of the stairs with Sophia in her arms. Isabella's face went from angry to shocked to furious in seconds. Who is she? Isabella. Who is she, Adrian? Zoe came down the stairs slowly. She wore jeans and an old sweater, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked nothing like Isabella's polished perfection. But she held her head high as she approached. I'm Zoe, she said calmly. And this is Sophia. One of Adrian's children. The room went silent. Isabella stared at Sophia, then at Zoe, then at Adrian. Her mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out. Children, she finally managed. You have children? Twins, Zoe added. Ethan's upstairs. Isabella's face turned red. You had children with another woman and didn't tell me? We're getting married in 3 months. The engagement's off, Adrian said. Excuse me? I'm calling off the wedding. I should have done it a week ago. Isabella stepped closer, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper. Do you have any idea what you're doing? My father will destroy you. Our families had an arrangement. Tell your father to do his worst. You're choosing her over everything we've built. Adrian looked at Zoe, holding Sophia. Then he looked at Isabella. Yes. Isabella's hand moved so fast he almost didn't see it. She slapped him across the face, the sound cracking through the room. You're going to regret this, she hissed. My father won't let this go. Neither will I. She yanked the engagement ring off her finger and threw it at Adrian's feet. It bounced twice and rolled under a table. Then she stormed out, heels clicking against the marble floor. When the door slammed behind her, Adrian turned to Zoe. She was staring at him, Sophia still in her arms, her expression unreadable. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Yes, I did. You just made an enemy of the Chun family. I don't care. You should care. They're powerful. Adrian walked toward her, stopping a few feet away. Zoe, I spent 3 years making choices based on fear. Fear of what my enemies would do. Fear of getting you hurt. Fear of losing control. And every choice I made was wrong. He paused. I'm done being afraid. I'm done letting other people decide what matters to me. You and Ethan and Sophia matter. Everything else can burn. Zoe's eyes were shining, but no tears fell. That's a nice speech, she said. But speeches don't undo 3 years of pain. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking for a chance to be here. To be part of their lives, even if I don't deserve it. Sophia chose that moment to reach out toward Adrian, her tiny hand opening and closing. Zoe looked at her daughter, then at Adrian. Slowly, she shifted Sophia toward him. Hold her, she said softly. But if you drop her, you'll kill me. I know. Adrian took Sophia carefully, cradling her against his chest. She stared up at him with Zoe's eyes, curious and bright. Hi, sweetheart, he whispered. I'm your dad. I know I haven't been around. But I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere. Sophia grabbed his finger and held on tight. When Adrian looked up, Zoe was crying. Silent tears streaming down her face. This doesn't mean I forgive you, she said. I know. And it doesn't mean we're together. I know. But, her voice broke. But maybe you can try. Maybe you can learn to be their father. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't love. But it was a door opening just a crack. And Adrian would take it. The next morning, Adrian's phone rang. An unknown number. He answered, already knowing who it would be. Kane. Thomas Reeves's voice was smooth as poison. I hear you broke off your engagement. Smart move. Wouldn't want your bride caught in the crossfire. What do you want? Meet me at the old warehouse on Porter Street. Tonight. Midnight. Alone. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll send my people to that safe house on Key Biscayne. And they won't be gentle with the woman and those babies. Adrian's blood went cold. You don't know where they are. Don't I? Check your security footage from last night. Around 11. Adrian pulled up the footage on his phone. His stomach dropped. There, clear as day, was a figure standing across the street from the safe house. Watching. Filming. Midnight, Reeves repeated. Don't be late. And don't bring backup, or they die. The line went dead. Adrian stood there, his mind racing. This was a trap. Obviously. Reeves wanted him alone so he could kill him without witnesses. But if Adrian didn't go, Reeves would come here. Would hurt Zoe and the babies. He had no choice. That evening, Adrian found Zoe in the nursery, reading to Ethan and Sophia. She looked up when he entered, her expression guarded but not cold. I need to go out tonight, he said. Okay. If I don't come back. Zoe stood, alarm flashing across her face. What do you mean, if you don't come back? Reeves called. He wants to meet. It's probably a trap. Then don't go. If I don't, he'll come here. Then bring your men. Bring an army. He said come alone or he'd kill you and the babies. Zoe's face went pale. She set down the book and crossed to Adrian, stopping inches away. You can't go. If it's a trap. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. We can leave. Go somewhere he can't find us. He'll find you. Men like Reeves always do. The only way to stop him is to face him. Zoe grabbed Adrian's arm. You'll die. Maybe. But at least you'll be safe. You're an idiot. Her voice cracked. After everything, after 3 years, you're going to throw your life away? I'm not throwing it away. I'm finally doing what I should have done 3 years ago. I'm protecting the people I love. The word hung in the air between them. Love. Zoe stared at him, tears streaming down her face. You don't get to say that. You don't get to love us and then die. I've loved you every day for 3 years, Adrian said quietly. Every single day, even when I was trying to forget you. Even when I convinced myself I was doing the right thing by staying away. I never stopped loving you. Then stay. Stay alive. Stay with us. Adrian pulled her into his arms. She buried her face against his chest, her body shaking with sobs. I'll come back, he whispered. I promise. It was a promise he didn't know if he could keep. But he'd try. The warehouse sat at the edge of Miami's industrial district, surrounded by empty lots and rusted shipping containers. Adrian parked half a block away and approached on foot, his gun hidden in his jacket. The building was dark except for a single light in the center, illuminating a figure standing alone. Thomas Reeves. Tall, gray-haired, wearing an expensive suit like this was a business meeting and not an execution. "Kane," Reeves said as Adrian approached. "Glad you could make it. Let's get this over with. Straight to business." "I respect that." Reeves smiled. "You know why you're here? To die." "Partially. But first, I want you to understand something. 3 years ago, you took territory from me. You cost me millions. You cost me respect. So I swore I'd take something from you. You threatened Zoe. That's why I left her." "I know. And it worked, didn't it? You stayed away. You convinced yourself you were noble for abandoning her. But then you found out about the babies and couldn't help yourself." Reeves started circling Adrian slowly, like a shark. "That's your weakness, Kane. You care too much. It makes you predictable. Controllable. If you're going to kill me, do it." "Oh, I'm not going to kill you." Reeves stopped circling. "You're going to kill yourself." Before Adrian could react, floodlights blazed to life, blinding him. Armed men emerged from the shadows, at least a dozen, all pointing weapons. And in the center, held by 2 of Reeves's men, was Zoe. Adrian's heart stopped. "No," he whispered. "Surprise," Reeves said. "Did you really think I wouldn't have someone watching your safe house? I grabbed her 20 minutes after you left. The babies are still there, don't worry. I'm not a monster." Zoe was gagged, her hands tied behind her back, but her eyes burned with fury. "Here's how this works," Reeves continued. "You're going to kneel. You're going to put your gun to your head. And you're going to pull the trigger. If you do, I let her go. If you don't, my men will kill her slowly while you watch." Adrian's hand moved to his gun, but he didn't draw it. His mind raced through options. He could try to shoot Reeves. But the armed men would kill him before he got a shot off. And then they'd kill Zoe. He could try to fight. But he was outnumbered 12-1. Or he could do what Reeves wanted. End it. Save Zoe. "You have 10 seconds, Reeves said. Adrian looked at Zoe. She was shaking her head frantically, trying to scream through the gag. "I'm sorry," Adrian mouthed. He drew his gun. But before he could raise it, gunfire erupted from every direction. Reeves's men started dropping, picked off by snipers Adrian hadn't seen. More gunfire came from the warehouse entrance as Adrian's team stormed in, led by Raymond. Chaos exploded. Adrian dove toward Zoe as bullets flew over his head. He tackled the men holding her, knocking them both down, and ripped the gag from her mouth. "How?" she gasped. "I'm not an idiot. I brought backup." But Reeves said. Reeves lied. He was always going to kill both of us. Adrian cut the ropes binding her hands, then grabbed her and ran for cover behind a shipping container. The gunfight raged around them. Adrian's men were better trained, better positioned. Within minutes, most of Reeves's guards were down. But Reeves himself was running toward a side exit. Adrian stood. "Stay here. Adrian, don't." But he was already moving, chasing Reeves through the warehouse into a back alley. It was raining. The ground was slick and treacherous. Reeves turned, gun raised, and fired twice. The first shot went wide. The second caught Adrian in the shoulder, spinning him backward. Pain exploded through his body, but adrenaline kept him moving. He raised his own gun and fired. His shot hit Reeves in the chest. The older man staggered, looked down at the spreading blood, then collapsed into a puddle. Adrian walked forward slowly, his own blood running down his arm, mixing with the rain. Reeves looked up at him, choking. You think this changes anything? My people will come for you. For her. For those babies. Let them try, Adrian said. Reeves smiled, blood on his teeth. You can't protect them forever. Maybe not forever. But I'll protect them today. And tomorrow. And every day after that. He raised his gun for the final shot. But Reeves was already gone, his eyes staring sightlessly at the rainy sky. Adrian lowered his gun and turned back toward the warehouse. Zoe stood at the entrance, soaking wet, staring at him. He walked toward her, his shoulder screaming in pain, his vision starting to blur. You're shot, she said, her voice shaking. I'm fine. You're bleeding everywhere. I've had worse. He took another step and his legs gave out. Zoe caught him before he hit the ground, her arms surprisingly strong for someone so small. Don't you dare die, she said, her tears mixing with the rain. Don't you dare die on me now. Not planning to, Adrian whispered. Everything went dark. Adrian woke up in a hospital room 3 days later. The first thing he saw was Zoe, asleep in a chair beside his bed, her hand wrapped around his. The second thing he saw were 2 cribs against the wall. Ethan and Sophia, both sleeping peacefully. His family. All together. All safe. Adrian squeezed Zoe's hand gently. She woke immediately, her eyes flying open, searching his face. You're awake, she breathed. I promised I'd come back. Tears streamed down her face. You're an idiot. You keep saying that. Because it's true. She stood and leaned over him, her face inches from his. You got shot. Again. You almost died. Again. But I didn't die. That's not the point. What is the point? Zoe was quiet for a moment. Then she said, the point is that Ethan and Sophia need their father. And her voice broke. And I need you too. Adrian lifted his good hand and cupped her face. Are you saying you forgive me? I'm saying I'm trying. I'm saying that watching you almost die made me realize I'm still angry about what happened 3 years ago. But I'm also terrified of losing you now. You won't lose me. You can't promise that. Then I promise to fight like hell to stay alive. How's that? Zoe smiled through her tears. It's a start. She leaned down and kissed him. Soft at first, then deeper, 3 years of pain and love and anger and hope all tangled together. When she pulled back, Adrian said, "Marry me." Zoe laughed. You just broke off an engagement a week ago. That wasn't real. This is real. You're high on painkillers. I've never been more clear-headed in my life. Marry me, Zoe. Not for business. Not for protection. Because I love you. Because I want to spend every day for the rest of my life making up for the 3 years I lost. Because I want to be Ethan and Sophia's father, and your husband, and build the family we should have had all along. Zoe stared at him, more tears falling. Ask me again in 6 months, she finally said. When you're not in a hospital bed. When we've had time to actually figure out if this can work. When I've had time to heal from everything that happened. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. I'll take it. Zoe smiled and kissed him again. Get some rest. The doctor said you need at least 2 weeks before. A cry interrupted her. Sophia, waking up in her crib. Then Ethan joined in, not wanting to be outdone. Zoe sighed. Welcome to fatherhood. Adrian watched her cross to the cribs, watched her pick up both babies with practiced ease, watched her bring them to his bedside. You want to hold them? She asked. Yes. She carefully placed Sophia in his good arm. The baby looked up at him with wide eyes, then smiled. Adrian felt his chest tighten. "Hey, princess," he whispered. "Daddy's back." Zoe sat on the edge of the bed with Ethan, and for a moment, they were all together. A family. Broken and imperfect and still healing. But together. "This doesn't fix everything," Zoe said softly. "I know. It's going to take time. Maybe years. Maybe forever. I've got time." She looked at him, and for the first time since that crosswalk 3 years ago, Adrian saw something in her eyes that looked like hope. "Okay," she said. "Let's try." 6 months later. Adrian stood in the kitchen of their new house, making breakfast while Ethan and Sophia sat in high chairs, throwing pieces of banana at each other. "Ethan, no," Adrian said, trying to sound stern but failing when his son just giggled. "You're terrible at discipline," Zoe said, coming downstairs in one of his old shirts. "They're babies. What am I supposed to do? Not laugh when they misbehave. But look at them. They're cute when they're misbehaving." Zoe rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. 6 months had changed everything. Adrian had stepped back from the dangerous side of his business, focusing on legitimate operations. They'd moved out of the safe house into a real home, with a yard where the babies could play. Zoe had started taking night classes, working toward the degree she'd abandoned years ago. Adrian stayed home with the twins when she was in class, learning how to be a father through trial and error. It wasn't perfect. They still fought sometimes. Zoe still had moments where the pain of those 3 years came flooding back. Adrian still woke up in the middle of the night, checking security cameras, making sure his family was safe. But they were healing. Together. "Hey," Adrian said, turning from the stove. "I have something for you." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Zoe's eyes widened. "Adrian. 6 months. You said to ask you again in 6 months." He opened the box, revealing a simple ring. "So I'm asking. Marry me. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you and those babies." Zoe stared at the ring, then at him, then at Ethan and Sophia, who had stopped throwing food and were watching their parents with curious expressions. "You're still an idiot," she said. "Is that a yes?" "It's a yes." Adrian slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her while the twins clapped and giggled. It wasn't the ending either of them had expected 3 years ago. But it was the beginning they both deserved. And this time, Adrian wasn't walking away. Not ever again. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you are watching from.